Good evening. You're listening live to the Xtreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob, alongside tonight from Central Florida. I have Professor Fix from the great Midwest, RDV, the man that shares the spotlight with us on Tuesday nights as we review all things extreme. And gentlemen, obviously tonight we're getting together just to kind of do a brief retrospective on Tom Sizemore, who recently passed away. I believe it was a brain aneurysm. Typically, we don't really get into all the who's it's, what's it's about somebody's personality and their background, their politics, and all that. Um, he's a man that was that I would describe from my initial take is he's a guy that you never said, "Hey, I want to go watch him," but you go, "Hey, he's good." And I think one of the most important things sometimes with supporting actors, and definitely something I want you guys to come on as we start talking about him here in a moment, is that no matter how good you are, if you steal a scene, you're not doing your job. You're stealing it away from somebody else. And I think when you're there and you can elevate somebody else in a scene and hold it on your own, be called on to do a lot of different things, that's the sign of a really strong actor. Now, whether you consider an A-lister or a supporting actor or whatever, kind of really doesn't matter, because we've seen a lot of A-listers come and go or do one thing over and over. And then you get a guy here who's, when you look at his catalog, you're like, shit, this guy's been around a really long time. And
Yep.
most recently to me, I'll start with you, Pixel, because you probably know the least about him. He was in season 3 of Twin Peaks that we covered, and he was phenomenal in it.
Yeah.
I remember he had a lot of energy, did a great job, and it was just a nice little fun side story. What do you kind of recall off the top of your head before we roll over to RDV?
Well, I mean, I think it was a little more than just a side story when you consider that Dougie Dale took a big portion of that trailer, so that season. But no, in that show, because that is really what I know him from. I've seen him in person before.
Tell us
I
the
went
story.
well, it was at Spooky Empire. He was there because, of course, his experience with certain horror films. But really, it was a little. It was a little strange to see him up there because the conversation didn't focus on that. His most notable things, of course, are what I'm sure Venkman is wanting to dig into. Oh crap, the name's leaving me.
Saving Private Ryan, Black Hawk Down, and
Yes.
Harley Davidson and Marble Man.
Well, the first one is really
Yeah.
what he would tap into, because he has had a very troubled life. But he still seems like a really good person. It's just that life took a toll on him. But with how he would talk about his experience on set with actors, he had so many stories to share. But I really do want to talk about in Twin Peaks, because that's where I actually got to see his chops. I agree. I think he was quite good in it. It's kind of strange considering the situation in which the season has him.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he was able to hold his own. He is a very memorable part of that.
Now, RDV, you and I do a lot of action stuff kind of on Tuesdays, not always, but a lot. And so we cover a lot of different things, really. But you and I have talked about some stuff he may have been in, but not a lot. And so I know there's a lot when we were looking at going, wow, he really has been in a lot. What comes to mind when you think about him?
Well, I just watched Saving Private Ryan. He played Mike Hawthorne in that. It's Hobart. He is basically the sergeant to Tom Hanks in that movie, and they're friends. They're both older, and they're both just the acting chops in that. The toll they have each other. It's just the way they act. This stands out. Saving Private Ryan, awesome movie. I forgot how long it was, but dang, is it just awesome? I was looking at some of his IMDb stuff. I forgot he was in Red Planet.
Yep.
He was also in Enemy of the State. Sadly, I didn't get to watch that. It didn't look appealing to me. But Kit Carter, he's in there too. The Relic, Heat is his other big movie he's known for. Natural Born Killers. True Romance. Yeah, Striking Distance. Wyatt Earp. He was in all those in the early 90s. Passenger 57. Just awesome. Sad life. He was married, I guess, for a while. He had 2 kids. He was married to what's her name, Maeve Quinlan. Another actress. they had a couple kids, and then they divorced later. Not too much long after they're married. Probably been married for like 10 years, I think it was. But his whole thing. I'm curious because Pixel, you saw him in person. Did he ever talk about his life as far as drugs and stuff? And
Yeah, he did.
he was a struggling alcoholic, and I'm sure he was doing heroin.
Yeah, and you kind of could tell that of what his former life was before he was. I mean, he was talking about how he was so many years still clean, and you could tell that was a major part of it. But he didn't want to. No, not tall. Not really. He seemed, at least at the point that I saw him, he seemed kind of small. But I also don't think he was a tall guy in general. I could be wrong. Now I have to look it up.
Well, you got to take a couple inches off wherever the official height is.
He's just about the same height as Tom Hanks, 5'11".
5'11", yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Man. So he was 61 years old when he passed away. That movie came out in 1998, and he looked old. Born in 61, so I mean, I'm trying to think when he was in his 40s, maybe 98, or right around just late 30s. During Saving Private Ryan. But anyway, yeah, it's just like this is a guy. He is a good supporting role. I haven't seen him in Marlboro Man, thing. So I don't know how he is as a lead, but supporting great, and just looking at the way how they just made movies back then too. I was watching it, Saving Private Ryan. I just miss that kind of cinema, and just he fit right into it, man. You had a gangster movie, you're in a movie of a war, or whatever, cops. Tom Sizemore.
Yeah, John Belushi was a comic back in the 70s and all that too that was known for being kind of crazy. And of course, a lot of people in all areas, especially when we think of artistic ones, usually are under the influence of something. Not all of them, of course, and certainly not all the time. But John Belushi is one of the guys everyone knows, like, oh, he's so talented, this and that. And you say the same thing about Chris Farley and others. And so the thing with Sizemore, I remember, is that he had this really good stare, like he was pissed at you or just staring daggers through you, which is really good. And when you talked about Saving Private Ryan, I know on my Twitter feed that's been blowing up since the past couple of days with him in it. It's the scene where they're throwing like the helmets at each other, whatever. I don't remember if that was supposed to be a funny scene in the movie or not, because I saw it when it came out in theaters, right?
They both, I think they both ran out of ammo. So the one guy threw his helmet and he threw his helmet back at him, and then as he ran away, they both got their pistols. And he got shot in the ass.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah,
and then the other thing too with him is that, like I say, the comment I made at the beginning, where he's the kind of guy that could hold his own in the scene, but not overpower it or not, say, hey, look at me, kind of with the roles, is phenomenal because it makes everybody else stronger. And RDV, I've talked about this so many times before, that a lot of times having a great bad guy is awesome, but you have to earn your way up to the ability to fight him, like if it's a kung fu movie or something. And it sounds kind of silly, but it's a recipe that always seems to work. And I think for him, his ability to kind of blend in and out with whatever role is pretty neat. And like, for example, in Heat, I really enjoyed the movie. I liked him in it too. He, he's a lackey. He's a hanger-on. He's on the outskirts, the second or third degrees of what's really going on in the film. But you don't feel it, and that's the thing too. But it's not like he's, like I say, drawing the attention to himself. It's like when they're talking to him in a couple scenes, you're like, shit, this guy's good. He's not somebody that says his lines and gets off the camera and you forget about him, and you're supposed to. So I think that's one of the things that's allowed him to be so versatile and long-lived in his career, despite any outside Hollywood living, is because he's able to do that. And those are the kinds of things that, you go, hey, he's done some voiceover work, he's done this and that, he's been employable, he's obviously very good with what he does. You could argue that he does the same thing over and over, but I just think he's a step above a lot of people that we just don't even have two thoughts about when we go, oh, it's this guy or that guy, or this guy was hot for 2 films, or there's a little shtick about somebody and something, and that's all they did and they stopped, right? You don't see you don't see some like Ernest who goes to camp and Ernest saves the world and all that stuff. He was known for
Yeah,
being Ernest in a couple films and that's it. But you get someone like Sizemore and you're like, fuck, he could do a lot of stuff over decades.
yeah,
TV, movies.
he had that an intimidating look, going out to the eyes, but he also had that cocky attitude, which really helped out, and that's why he really stood out in Saving Private Ryan to me.
Yeah.
You know, all the actors that were in that movie, I was looking at. You had Ed Burns, you had Ted Danson pop up, you Tom Hanks, young Vin Diesel in the movie. Just so many different big names are popping up. David Fillion was even there too. I forgot he was in there. And just watching these guys' interactions, obviously Tom Hanks is the big actor. He's the main lead. He's the captain. But you get a young unknown, kind of like still kind of unknown Matt Damon. He did in a few things, but Tom Sizemore just helps carries that movie from the very beginning when they're on the beach and everything. As I said, like it was like him and Edward Burns and both stood out to me in that film more than Tom Hanks. They both have that way of capturing your attention away from where it's supposed to be. And then so I mean, you put someone like Tom Sizemore in a World War II movie, he's gonna be sitting there, he's gonna be bitching, he's gonna be smoking, he's gonna crack some jokes, you can tell he captures his characters, no matter what role you put him into. That's what I like about him. Black Hawk Down was another one. There's a scene there with him in the Humvee, and he has that, I guess, that shawarma, or what do we call it? You call like the charisma.
Shawarma's good for eating if it's made right.
Yeah. But man, like I said, this guy is born in Detroit, Michigan. His first movie is first movie is Lock Up with Stallone back in '89.
Mm-hmm.
He plays Dallas on there. That's one line role pretty much, and then he does a couple movies, and then he gets another role in Born on the 4th of July. He keeps going. He ends up on China Beach TV series for 6 episodes,
which is very popular at the time.
Yeah, and he starts doing some more another TV series of the episode. Then he does 2 more movies, kind of like unknown movies. Then he gets a role in Point Break, and then by same year, 1991, as Point Break comes out, he had a small uncredited role. You see him and Harley Davidson in the Marble Man, and that's when you start to see, oh my gosh, this guy actually is like, who is this guy? I want more of this guy. He does a few more movies, and then you see him again in Passenger 57. And you're like, come on, why isn't this guy getting some more big roles?
He didn't for a while after that because he did not bet on black.
Yeah, because he went to True Romance, and Striking Distance, and then Natural Born Killers, and then it just kept coming more movies. Heat, The Relic, Saving Private Ryan, Any Estates. He just gets more and more roles. And this is the guy. He never really turned down the TV movies or the small roles because it's a business, it's a living. If you're willing to pay you, in Hollywood, you can't. He's a guy who knew his limitations when it comes to acting. Even though I think he should have been in more movies, that are actually bigger blockbusters. But his next big hit after that was maybe Red Planet and then Pearl Harbor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then Black Hawk Down again, huge success.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's just like, and then the craziest thing, I didn't forgot about this. He starts getting the voice acting. He did the voice of Metamorpho, Rex Mason, in the Justice League series back in 2002. He did it for 2 episodes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then he did Sonny Forelli in Vice City.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a guy, like I said, that I go, ooh, I gotta watch it because he's in it. Some people might do that, or even if they're a bit actor. We just completed before this live our 12th and final episode of the Dark Shadows Revival show from NBC, and of course the big thing is the vampire lead and the love story and the gothic campiness. But there's an actor that played a sheriff in there named Michael Cavanaugh, who was one of the bad heavy guys in one of our Chuck Norris movies from back in the day. And I'm like, damn it, this guy's intense. This guy's good. And unfortunately, things never unfolded where we got to see more of him. But he kind of reminds me of like that, where Sizemore, just maybe because of his background from Detroit and all that, like you say, he just seems like a natural. I don't want to say tough guy in that he's a fighter per se, but a tough dude. He's a man. He's not a child that puts on 20 pounds and acts like he's an ass kicker like in today's world, right? He
He's like,
seems legit.
we were laughing because we're talking about. I think it was Ed that said, no, Dick Sargent New York said he looks like, oh, he's not Michael Madsen
He isn't Michael Madsen.
because Michael Madsen would do similar roles like this too.
True.
Yeah, and it's. I'm not trying to diss out on Michael Madsen's was a good actor. I like these movies.
Yeah.
It sucks to get botched plastic surgery. Never should have went for it, but man.
Well, not everybody's going to be a lead, and so most of the other roles in the film are not the lead, and people seem to forget that when it comes to the sheer numbers game.
And this is a guy. Not only I almost wonder if, because remember he was doing drugs. I wonder if he just started taking more and more in just movies because he wanted to. Most people that needed money for the fix. But I remember him, like, he said he would get like sober and then relapse.
Yeah.
But
he'd build up some momentum, like you said, with a couple films, and then he'd get in his own way.
Yeah. But the guy was still able to do movies. And you look at how many he's going through. He's doing shorts or just some straight to DVD movies. These are, but at this point, I don't look at. Now, saying I don't look down on people who do straight to DVD movies because it's a living, it's a job. You're getting paid for doing something that you love doing.
Yeah. Now, Pixel, let me ask you this, because you being the young 20-something here, your perspective is a little different. We're talking about guys, and 61 is not necessarily old, but obviously, occasionally we review somebody that's done passing, and talk about what we've reviewed on the Xtreme Movie Show and how it relates to stuff. One of the things RDB and I have always talked about is how it's hard that, like, say, you get somebody like a Tom Cruise when he goes to retire, regardless of what you think of him personally or like that, at least professionally speaking, and no matter what he says, he does go above and beyond what most actors are willing to do to make a good film. That's one of the reasons why we like him and, say, Jackie Chan. With Sizemore, though, he's not that kind of an actor, but I'm just wondering if there's anybody that's young today that you can look at and go, hey, I think this is somebody that 20 years down the road from now could be like a Sizemore, a really solid actor that nobody knows about, but not on the boyish side, but more on the man side, masculine, like, oh, that guy's a dude. He's not just an overgrown kid. Is there anybody that comes to mind?
I mean, I can't think of that. I can't think of anybody from now that really applies to that. Pardon me. No, even the guy that was in Violent Night, who played the bad guy, like that's what it came to mind. But he's different from what you're describing. I can't
John
think
Leguizamo?
of. Yeah. I can't think of, as Ed Brewer says, the third or fourth man who chooses to be the third or fourth man.
And Leguizamo was a great side actor like that. Luis Guzman comes to mind too. I mean, so there's definitely people like that. You go, oh, this and that, and it's not their movie, but they're in it and they add to it. And I definitely think Sizemore did that a lot. Like I say, I when you go back and look at the resume, you're like, shit, he was in this, and I remember that in this. Oh, he wasn't Point Break. Oh, he was that scene. You know what I mean? So, well, let's go on for some final thoughts. RDB, I know you've got a little more under your belt when it comes to Sizemore than Pixel. What do you want to say?
Well, I was just recently linking his upcoming stuff, and he just did. He's going to be in season 6 of Cobra Kai, first episode, Billy.
Interesting.
So he's going to be JT Taggart. I wonder if he was supposed to be in more than one episode now. The fact that he passed away, and they're still filming it. But it's supposed to come out this year, though, the final season, I think.
I'm not sure, but it's getting close. Yeah.
Yeah,
interesting. I'm sure they'll acknowledge it then.
Because I was looking, like, he's got a lot of like really movies I've never heard of. Because these are the movies you'd see on Blockbuster, like on the wall.
Yeah,
but they'd never be in theater. And
Arnold Schwarzenegger's out, Stallone's out. I guess I'll pick up this one. Oh, it's got that guy in it.
Yeah.
But
like I said, like he's not like one of the guys I would like be like, oh, it's Tom Sizemore. Yeah, I'll just kind of pass up. Like, Tom Sizemore always, like I said, I can guarantee if you put him with A-list celebrities, he fits right in.
Yeah.
He's he's not. I wouldn't consider him a D-list celebrity.
He's a good utility player.
Yeah, he's basically the guy that you need to prop up the movie, to prop up the main characters. So that's whether he's playing, the bad guy, the guy who made the deal. You're like, hey, buddy, I'm in a jam here. I need help and money. Or just being the sarcastic guy and be like, it's like, dude, why do we need this guy? Let's go. He always needs supporting characters. Supporting characters are sometimes better than the lead actors. Just like their supporting roles. Yeah. So I mean, I kind of sucks, man. I would have loved to see them if they did a Lethal Weapon 5. Would have been awesome seeing that.
Yeah. Pixel, any final thoughts?
I just want to go ahead and say it is very disheartening to learn this news. Like when I saw his name appear on Twitter, it wasn't a who's this guy again? No, I knew who he was. I mean, apart from seeing him and then seeing him on Twin Peaks, he is the third, fourth man that you know. And it is very sad that life just took its toll. And, thoughts and prayers for his family and him.
This is interesting. He actually was in the active duty Air Force back in 1980. And then he entered the civil service in 1987. 75 years active duty with the Air Force, followed by 2 years in ROTC at the University of Louisville, Kentucky. So I bet you that really, that's now I'm learning this. This is probably why he was so great in Saving Private Ryan.
Who knows? Anything we need to plug before we call it?
Not much, man. Just if you haven't seen Black Hawk Down, Heat, Saving Private Ryan, Natural Born Killers, The Relic, or Company of Heroes, go check those out. Those are his top movies, I'd say. My favorites are Saving Private Ryan and Black Hawk Down. They're just awesome.
Yeah.
Rob, obviously, you love Heat a lot.
Yeah.
Natural Born Killers, I hear mixed, but on the time. But man, like I said, you can't go wrong with Heat or Saving Private Ryan or Black Hawk Down. The Relic is like a horror movie, creature movie. So check that out.
Yeah.
And
might be closest to being next here on the Xtreme Movie Show. It's that kind of movie.
The great thing about these movies, these are late 90s, mid to late 90s, when they're still using props, special effects. So
I will also go ahead and say, if you've been here watching the Xtreme Movie Show, you know how we feel about Twin Peaks. Go check it out. And when you get to season 3 and you see him appear, no, that's Tom Sizemore.
Yep. He's got a great arc in season 3 of Twin Peaks.
I'm
He
just
really,
glad
really does.
I'm just glad you didn't say he peaked at season 3.
Well, that would be a David Lynch production.
A David Lynch production. Tom, I want you to stand over here.
Stop. You're yelling. But that's what he sounds like.
All
right, guys, have a good night. Rest in peace, Tom Sizemore. Have a good night, everybody. See you Tuesday night when we go live. Movie to be determined. We're going to discuss that right now. Have a good night, and as always, guys, stay extreme.
Pouring out for your boy.